You know that feeling when you stay up 72 hours straight, fueled by cold pizza, Red Bull, and pure stubborn brilliance, to build something perfect. Something so elegant, so impossibly clever, that even you stand back and whisper, "Holy hell, I actually did it." Yeah, I know that feeling. I lived it. November 14th, 3:47 a.m. My fingers cramping over a mechanical keyboard in a windowless office that smelled like burnt coffee and broken dreams. I was a senior software engineer at Helix Financial, a mid-sized fintech darling on the edge of going public, and I had just solved the unsolvable. I'd built a proprietary trading algorithm, codename Artemis, that could predict micro-market shifts with 91% accuracy. 91%. In the world of high-frequency trading, that's not just good, that's godlike. I saved the final build, pushed it to the repo, stumbled home as the sun came up, drunk on exhaustion and victory. 3 weeks later, my manager, Derek Vance, a man whose greatest technical achievement was learning how to unmute himself on Zoom, stood in front of the executive board, clicked through my slides, demoed my algorithm, and accepted a $300,000 performance bonus and a promotion to VP of Engineering. He thanked the team, never said my name, not once. 4 months after that, he called me into his corner office, the one with the view I'd never get, and laid me off. "Restructuring," he said, barely looking up from his phone. "Nothing personal." I walked out of that building with a cardboard box, a 2-week severance check, and a white-hot coal of rage burning so deep in my chest I could taste metal. But here's the thing about brilliant, sleep-deprived women who've been stolen from, humiliated, and discarded like yesterday's code. We don't get mad. We get methodical. Because 6 months later, on a bright Tuesday morning in May, the stock market opened at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. And by 9:36 a.m., Helix Financial's stock price had cratered 42%. Trading halted. Panic erupted. The SEC launched an investigation, and Derek Vance's face, pale, sweating, destroyed, was plastered across CNBC with the chyron. Helix Financial loses $890 million in market value after catastrophic algorithm failure. One line of code, that's all it took. One single line. And I'm going to tell you exactly how I did it. But first, if you've ever been overlooked, underestimated, or had someone take credit for your hard work, do me a favour, hit that like button right now. Subscribe if you love a good justice story, because what you're about to hear, it's not just revenge, it's poetry. Let me take you back. Helix Financial, circa 2023, a company riding the fintech hype wave, venture-backed, buzzword-loaded, and desperate to IPO before the market turned. I'd been there 3 years, started as a mid-level engineer, worked my way up to senior. I was good, really good at what I did. Algorithm design, predictive modelling, systems architecture. The kind of engineer who doesn't just write code, she sculpts it. But here's the thing about being a woman in tech, especially in finance. You can be twice as smart, work twice as hard, and somehow still be half as visible. Every meeting, I watched mediocre men, guys who couldn't debug a for loop, get promotions, raises, corner offices. Meanwhile, I was the one actually building the product. And then came Derek Vance, hired 6 months before the Artemis project as Director of Engineering. Tall, handsome in that bland corporate headshot kind of way. MBA from a school that mattered more than it should. 0 technical chops. But God, could he talk. Buzzwords, synergy, paradigm shifts, agile this, blockchain that. The executives loved him. I knew immediately he was going to be a problem. But I didn't realize how much of a problem until the Artemis project landed on my desk. Our CEO, Richard Langford, called an all-hands in September, stood on stage in his designer jeans and Patagonia vest, because of course, and announced, "We're going public in Q2 next year, but to get the valuation we need a killer app, something proprietary, something no one else has. He paused for effect. We're building a predictive trading algorithm, codename Artemis. The room buzzed. This was the project, the one that would make or break the IPO. After the meeting, Derek pulled me aside, smiled that empty smile. You're lead engineer on this. I know you won't let me down. I should have heard the trap in those words, but I was too excited. This was my shot. The next 2 months were brutal. I worked 16-hour days, weekends, holidays. Artemis wasn't just code, it was a living, breathing beast. Machine learning models trained on decades of market data. Real-time sentiment analysis scraping news, earnings calls, social media. Predictive algorithms that could anticipate price movements milliseconds before they happened. It was beautiful, it was mine. And then came the final push. November 13th. The board wanted a live demo in 3 days. The algorithm was 90% done. But that last 10%, that's where the magic lived. I locked myself in the office, ordered pizza at 11 p.m., drank so much coffee my hands shook, and at 3:47 a.m. on November 14th, I cracked it. The final optimization, a custom weighting function that dynamically adjusted risk tolerance based on volatility clustering. I tested it, back-tested it, ran it live on sandbox data. 91% accuracy. I actually laughed out loud, this manic, exhausted, victorious laugh, and slumped back in my chair. I'd done it. I'd built something impossible. I saved the final build, pushed it to the main repository, sent Derek a Slack message. Artemis is live, ready for demo. Then I went home and slept for 14 hours. The board demo was scheduled for November 17th. I spent the weekend prepping slides, rehearsing my presentation. This was my moment. Monday morning, I walked into the conference room and froze. Derek was already there, standing at the front, my slides on the screen. He turned, saw me, and smiled. Oh, hey, thanks for putting this together. I've got it from here. My stomach dropped. Wait, what? The board wants a high-level overview, he said smoothly. Technical details would just confuse them. I'll handle the presentation. You can sit in if you want. I should have fought, should have marched in there and demanded to present my own damn work. But I was tired and stupid, and I believed, God, I actually believed, that he'd give me credit. So I sat in the back and watched. Watched Derek present my algorithm, watched him click through my slides, watched him field questions badly about technical details he didn't understand, and watched the board eat it up. Richard Langford stood, shook Derek's hand and said, "This is exactly what we needed. Outstanding work, Derek." Derek smiled. "Just doing my job." He never looked at me, not once. 2 weeks later, the company announced Q4 bonuses. Derek Vance, $300,000 cash bonus and promotion to VP of Engineering. Me, a $2,000 gift card to Amazon, and an email from HR thanking me for my contributions to the team. I sat in my cube, staring at that email, and felt something inside me crack, not break, crack, like ice on a frozen lake, still holding, but barely. The next 4 months were hell. Derek, now VP, restructured the entire engineering department, hired his MBA buddies, pushed out the engineers who'd actually built the product. I watched it happen in slow motion. One by one, my teammates were transitioned out, and I knew I was next. March 23rd, a Thursday. Derek's assistant sent me a calendar invite. Quick check-in, 3 p.m. I knew. I walked into his corner office, floor-to-ceiling windows, leather chairs, a view of the city I'd never get. He didn't even stand, just gestured to a chair. "So," he said, tapping his phone, "we're restructuring the engineering team, streamlining. You know how it is." My throat tightened. "We're letting you go, effective immediately. 2 weeks severance. HR will walk you through the paperwork." I just stared at him. "Why?" He shrugged. "Nothing personal, just business." "I built Artemis." His eyes flicked up, cold. We built Artemis as a team, and now the team is moving in a different direction. He stood. Security will escort you out. I packed my desk in a cardboard box, family photos, a coffee mug, a small succulent plant I'd named Larry. 2 security guards waited by the elevator. I walked through the office, past engineers who wouldn't meet my eyes, past Derek's new hires who didn't even know my name, and out the front door, into the parking lot, into my car. And I sat there, in silence, for 20 minutes. And then I screamed, pounded the steering wheel, cried so hard I couldn't breathe. Not because I was sad, because I was furious. That night, I sat in my apartment with a bottle of wine and my laptop, and I started thinking. Artemis was live, in production, running billions of dollars in trades every single day, and I had built every single line. I knew that code better than I knew my own heartbeat. And then I remembered something. A tiny little feature I'd buried deep in the algorithm, a failsafe. Something I'd coded in during one of those 3 a.m. delirium sessions. A way to remotely shut down the algorithm if something went catastrophically wrong. A kill switch, hidden, encrypted. Accessible only to someone who knew exactly where to look, someone like me. I opened my laptop, logged into an old VPN I'd set up months ago for remote debugging, and I found it. Buried in a subroutine labelled error or logging backup.py. One function, one line of code. A single conditional statement that, if triggered, would inject a logic bomb into the algorithm's decision-making core. It wouldn't break Artemis, it would make it insane. I want to be clear about something. I'm not a saboteur. I'm not reckless. I don't blow things up for fun. But Derek Vance stole my work, took credit for my genius, paid himself $300,000, and then erased me. So I did what any rational, methodical, brilliantly vindictive engineer would do. I engineered his destruction. The failsafe I'd built was elegant. A single line of code that, when activated, would subtly corrupt Artemis's risk assessment logic. Not immediately, not obviously, but gradually, over the course of 6 minutes, the algorithm would start making insane trades, buying high, selling low, ignoring stop losses, amplifying losses instead of cutting them. It would look like a catastrophic malfunction, an unforeseen bug, a tragic, expensive accident, and no one would ever trace it back to me. I spent 2 weeks planning, monitoring the market, waiting for the perfect conditions. I needed volatility. I needed uncertainty. I needed a day when Artemis would be under maximum load, processing thousands of trades per second, so the corruption would spread fast. And then it happened. May 9th. The Fed announced an unexpected rate hike. Markets opened shaky. Volatility spiked. Helix Financial's trading volumes surged. It was perfect. That morning, I woke up at 6 a.m., made coffee, sat on my couch with my laptop, and at 9:29 a.m. Eastern, 1 minute before market open, I logged in, navigated to the hidden subroutine, and activated the kill switch. 1 click, that's all it took. I closed my laptop, turned on CNBC, and waited. The opening bell rang. Artemis spun to life. For the first 90 seconds, everything looked normal. Helix's stock price, $47.82. Steady. Then, 9:32 a.m., the first crack. A bad trade, $200,000 loss. Then another. Then 10 more. By 9:34 a.m., Artemis was hemorrhaging money. The algorithm was screaming, buying into falling stocks, doubling down on losing positions, ignoring every safeguard. The CNBC anchor frowned. "We're seeing some unusual activity in Helix Financial," and then it collapsed. Helix Financial, $47.82, $32.15. In 6 minutes, a 42% drop. Trading halted, alarms blared, phones exploded, the anchor's face went pale. "We're getting reports of a catastrophic algorithm failure at Helix Financial." I sat there, sipping my coffee, watching the number tick down. $890 million in market value. Gone. Within an hour, it was everywhere. CNBC, Bloomberg, Reuters. Helix Financial suffers catastrophic trading loss. Stock plummets 42%. The SEC launched an investigation. Investors fled. And at 11 a.m., a grainy photo appeared on CNBC. Derek Vance, pale, sweating, surrounded by lawyers. The Chiron read, Helix VP of Engineering faces questions after $890 million algorithm failure. I smiled and took another sip of coffee. The next 72 hours were glorious. Derek tried to spin it, blamed unforeseen market conditions, blamed a rogue engineer, but the board didn't care. They needed a scapegoat. And Derek, VP of Engineering, the guy who'd taken credit for Artemis, was it. He was fired within a week, no severance, no bonus, escorted out by the same security guards who'd walked me out 4 months earlier. I heard through the grapevine he tried to get another job in fintech. No one would touch him. Last I checked, he's selling enterprise SaaS solutions in Cleveland. Helix Financial never recovered. The IPO was cancelled. Investors pulled out. The SEC fined them $40 million, and within a year, they were acquired by a competitor for pennies on the dollar. Artemis? Decommissioned? Erased? Gone? My life's work, Derek's stolen glory, deleted. And honestly, I was fine with that, because I'd already built something better. 3 months after the crash, I launched my own company, Meridian Analytics, a boutique algorithmic trading firm. I raised $5 million in seed funding, hired a small team of brilliant engineers who actually respected my work, and I rebuilt Artemis. Better, faster, smarter, no kill switch this time, just pure, perfect code. Last quarter we cleared $12 million in profit. And yesterday I got an email from Richard Langford, former CEO of Helix, asking if I was hiring. I didn't respond, but I did forward it to Derek, with a single line. Guess the team's moving in a different direction. Here's what I learned. Revenge isn't about destruction, it's about reclamation. Derek Vance didn't just steal my code, he tried to steal my story, my value, my identity, and for a while he succeeded. But here's the thing about brilliant women who've been underestimated. We don't disappear, we rebuild, and we come back stronger. So if this story gave you chills, or if you've ever been stolen from, overlooked, or erased, smash that like button. Drop a comment and tell me, what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever witnessed? And subscribe, because I've got so many more stories like this. Stories about justice, karma, and the beautiful, brutal art of getting even. Thanks for watching, and remember, never underestimate the quiet ones. We're always coding something.